Welcome to the Battlefield Show. I'm your host, Sage Goodwin, and as always, I'm joined by Sammy Boy. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, man. I'm a little bit under the weather, as everyone listening may be able to tell by my voice, but I'm very keen to chat some Battlefield nonetheless. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good. It's time to start that ASMR OnlyFans with the gravelly voice and everything.
Yeah. I can be a guest on it now that mine's a bit gravelly, and then but next week I'll have to go back to just doing YouTube.
Make 20 grand in a month and then be like, oh crap, I'm healthy now. Dang it.
Damn it.
But today we're going to be hopping in and talking about the Liquidators event.
Yep.
And how we've been enjoying it, what we like, what we don't like. So let's jump right in. First off, as Sammy said, everyone go over there, subscribe to his channel, and make sure he feels appreciated on that front, because the man is powering through for today's episode. So make sure you go over to his channel, hit subscribe, leave a comment, do all that good stuff. And then maybe if you feel extra nice, subscribe to our podcast too. But we got a new event. It's very interesting. I have a lot of opinions around it, I think is how I'll describe that. It's very interesting. Like we were so hyped up like last episode, super pumped about it. Getting into it, I hopped on this morning and it's weird.
That's a good way to describe it. That you've essentially summed up my thoughts on it. It's Look, I have my opinions on it too. I've got a lot of mixed thoughts on it. There's a lot of stuff about it that I really like. And there's a lot of stuff that, it's not so much that I don't like, it's more just like, I feel like it was done a bit weirdly. It was kind of gassed up by them a little bit.
Yeah.
And then it is just a limited time mode and they've put some skins in the game.
And it seems to be
it's kind of just odd,
on the back end.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. I streamed it yesterday and someone pointed that out, that it's got the little thing up in the top right with like the, what usually is there in Portal, where it explains the mode or whatever. And
the little signal under people's faces or names or whatever, it's the Portal logo.
Yeah, and also the fact that it, which, look, maybe this is why they did it that way, but it like automatically loads into the next game instead of going back to the menu.
Oh, so I'm so broken in terms of anytime I finish a game, I go back to menu no matter what. DICE has ruined me, and I hate it so much. So I didn't even know that,
because I wasn't paying attention on the stream yesterday, and then I actually had I've got different scenes so when I'm loading back to the menus, I'll go to the webcam, and I went to that, and then I looked at the screen, and I remember saying oh, what? We're already in the next game, and then I realized oh yeah, most Portal servers can just rotate like that. So it is weird that they did it in through Portal, but again, maybe that is actually why. I'm not sure that is why, because
well, I bet it's a lot easier for them too.
Yeah, that's true. It's, look, to be fair, it is, it's built into the game to do stuff like that, so I don't really it's not even I have an issue with that. It's more just odd. It's just the whole event is just kind of weird, I guess.
So, weirdness aside, how have you been enjoying it?
I've had fun with it, mostly due to the fact that it's a change of pace. I've got a lot of issues with the balancing. It's, I don't know, you can just spawn trap the team so easy. It's I feel like it wasn't, and to be fair, it's a 2-week long event. It's not like they've been playtesting this every day for 6 months, but I feel like they didn't do enough testing.
In
terms of just the fact you can push the enemy team back and cap all 3 flags, and then they're just stuck in their spawn. It's pretty hard to get out of that. So those sort of little issues with it. I think also the layout of the maps, they're all pretty much just a linear map.
Yeah,
I think Discarded's a triangle, but the rest of them are just linear, and I don't think that really works, because that's part of the reason why the spawn trapping happens.
Yeah.
And then I also think the maps are a little bit too big for 8 versus 8. I'm really keen for the 16 player mode, because I think that actually will fix a lot of these issues, even the spawn trapping, because it's a lot harder to spawn trap 16 people than it is 8 people because you've got to pay attention to way more people. So I think it's more just actually the 8 versus 8 is just a bit underwhelming. I do think 16 versus 16 will be pretty decent, but even then, I'm still having like a lot of fun with it. But I'm glad it's not like a permanent event or anything like that. It's just a 2-week thing, and that's kind of why. Like I've seen a lot of negativity around it, and I kind of agree with most of it. But from my perspective, because it's just a 2-week thing, I kind of don't care if it's not that good. I'm just like, it's just it's a limited time mode. It's not going to be amazing because a lot of games out there have limited time modes, and you play them once and you're like, wow, that sucks, and you just don't play it anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've got a lot of like stuff about it that I don't like, but I'm also not too like worried about it, if that makes sense. What are your thoughts on it?
Very similar to yours. I wrote down a couple things before hopping on the podcast, and one of the big things is the map. The maps on paper, this is probably what they did. They just said, okay, is that small enough? Yeah, it looks pretty small. Yeah, it looks small enough. They're not small enough. They don't offer the level of gameplay for 8v8. They were probably designed for 16v16, and I still think they probably are too big for 16v16, honestly. Yeah. That was my big thing, was the map layout is just the decisions that they made, especially on Breakaways. That's the first one I played. Breakaway's not very good on, because it's even the small mode is not small enough. Like, they didn't do a good job of really identifying proper boundaries. 100% agree with the idea of like spawn camping. Like, that is just, it's way too easy. Like you said, I got destroyed. Like, and the way it works too, with only 8 people and how small it is, it's so long to traverse to an area. By the time you get there, the person you were going to help is already dead, and then you're in the exact same situation that they were. So it's hard to like, if whoever claims all the points first is the team that will win 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, that is really the issue with it, because like you said, say your teammate spawns and you've just died, so you're still in the menus. They run up there, they try and push in. As you spawn in, they probably die. So all of those 8 enemies are only having to watch, say, 4 enemies, because your teammate goes up there, they die, then you go up there by yourself, you die, then your teammate goes up there. So no, it's like, it's kind of hard with such a small amount of people to actually work as a team, because a lot of the time there's not much of your team left. If 4 people die, that's half your team gone. So it's like pretty hard to push in there. And so yeah, I think that's why like the 16 player mode will hopefully fix that a little bit, because even though they have 16 players to do the spawn trapping, it's still a lot harder to keep an eye on 16 enemies. So I think that should fix it a little bit. It probably won't be permanently fixed, and that's mostly to do with the shape of the maps, because like I said, with Discarded, that's in like a triangular shape, and that means you can sort of attack multiple different directions rather than having to push straight through the enemy. And I feel like they all should have been like that. That's kind of the general layout of most Conquest maps in Battlefield, is they're very rarely linear. Like, there's been a few in the past, but most of them are almost like a big circle, and then the flags are sort of placed randomly throughout that circle. So I think that's the main issue with it. It's just, the map design, both the size, because you've got to run so far, mostly out in the open. You don't have vehicles and stuff. There's just a lot of the smaller issues that you can just tell they didn't probably play test as much as they probably should have.
Yeah, I think that is ultimately what it comes down to, is they didn't quite spend enough time on it as they probably should have. And it's definitely clear in a lot of the situations, for sure, especially when you get into the actual nuts and bolts of it and you're playing it and you're really experiencing it and you're seeing, here's the struggles and the failings with it. It's definitely not to the level that you kind of would have hoped for. I mean, it's still fun. I enjoyed playing it, mostly because it's a new, like you said, it's a new flavor of things. I think 8v8 is definitely too small for the amount of space that you have. I think 16v16 will be better, but I still don't think it's going to be the level that we all want it to be. So I think that's going to be interesting to see how we all end up playing it for this amount of time. And it just seems like you said, there's a lot of not, there's I'd say disappointment, because there's not a whole lot of anger. It's just kind of disappointment to how things actually ended up being in the first place.
Yeah, it's a lot of what I've seen has just been what we're saying too, where people, it's almost like people are a bit confused about it. It's like, oh, what is this?
Yeah.
There was like a trailer and it was kind of gassed up a bit by them. So I think that's part of it. If they just said like, oh, this week there's just a limited time mode, no one would even care. We'd be like, oh, that's okay, cool, we'll give it a try. But I think because there was a trailer and it's like a mid-season, they're labeling it an event. I think event is too much. I think it's not an event. It's just a limited time mode.
Yeah.
I think that's the issue. And I think another part of it, which we'll probably go deeper into later, but the skin side of things, how a lot of people, myself included, kind of thought that a lot of these skins are going to be just unlockable because they did quite literally mention like they're unlockable.
Yeah.
And then now it's like, oh, so only some are unlockable and the rest you got to buy. And I'm fine. Like I've always said, I'm fine with microtransactions and stuff, but it was just the way that it was set up.
Yes.
That kind of made it seem like, oh, look at all these cool skins and we're going to be able to unlock them. And I think we said on last week's podcast, like I was keen to have some like challenges to do and all that kind of thing, but then
the dozer skin is the only real skin I'll say, because I don't want a vehicle skin. Weapon skins I never really use.
Yeah, the dozer skin's the one that's like that's cool enough that I'll be like, yeah, I'll try and get that. But
yeah, exactly.
I think most of us assumed it would be maybe not all of them, but at least a handful of specialist skins, and yeah, that's just not the case. So again, it's kind of that situation. I'm not like mad about that because, like I said, they've got to make money. Like I'm fine with that, but it's more just the way that it was like presented that I'm not mad about it. I'm more just like, oh, that's different than what I thought it was going to be. So yeah, it's just a confusing event, really. It is the best way to say
it's really strange how they marketed everything, and then two, just kind of seeing how it ended up actually working instead of how we thought it was going to work. Because I think in the past, like, we almost expected it more to be like how limited time only modes work in other games, and it's just not there in this one, which I think it's fair. I think they took the easy route. They didn't necessarily do a whole lot on the back end because they're using Portal, and it's clear that they're using Portal. They just didn't tell us they were going to use Portal. We all expected it not to be Portal, and we expected, or hoped, I should say, that there would be more of the cool skins, because all the cool skins, the Dozer one's awesome, but it's not the coolest of the skins. It is, it's not quite what we were hoping for. And it's just it's a little bit disappointing, honestly.
It's also a specialist that like not that many people use as well.
Yeah,
I find it weird the ones that they choose. Like for example, Falk, her skin in this is like honestly not even good. It's not even similar to the rest of them.
Yeah,
I think all of the like white ones are cool, but hers is not. It's like, I don't know. It's not even the same design, if that makes sense. And that's weird because one, Falk doesn't really have that many skins. Like every time there's been awesome skins dropped, everyone's like, oh, where's the Falk skin?
Yeah. So
one, she kind of is deserving of a good skin, and then two, she's probably one of the most played specialists.
That is so true.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that they don't like, you know, make a good Falk skin and put that as the one that, because then I think I'd be like so keen to get that. Whereas the Dozer one, I'm keen to get it, but I literally don't play Dozer, so it's like I'm just going to get it and probably never once use it because I just don't play him. So it's just an odd, everything about this event is just kind of weird, and yeah, I'm not like I said, I'm not necessarily like angry or mad about it. I'm kind of just like, okay, this is how we're doing it, and yeah, I'm not like too fussed about it, and I'm also not like, I've had fun with it, but I'm also not like loving it either. So it's just like a weird feeling, I guess. I don't know. We've not had this type of thing in this game yet, where it's like, I feel like most updates and stuff have either been bad or very good. Like there's no in between.
Yeah, this
one's
weird.
just like, Yeah, this one's just kind of like a mid-tier update where it's like, yeah, it's all right, I guess.
Would you call it a mid-season update?
Look, to be fair, because there was actually a few like fixes and stuff, I guess you would. But it's not. Yeah, like comparing this to like the Call of Duty mid-season updates and stuff.
I just mean like it's mid.
Oh, yes. In that case, it is definitely a mid-season update. That went straight over my head. Oh no!
It's okay. It's terrible.
I should have had a coffee before I did this. I'm just absolutely drained, and I would have. I feel like I would have caught that one.
Yeah. See. Yeah. It's totally not my terrible.
I'm blaming
joke.
Blaming the illness. I'm not gonna lie. I don't mind that one. That's not bad. That speaks to my sense of humor.
Yeah. My puns are always intentional. But yeah, like it's so strange, honestly. I'm looking forward to getting more time into it. And it's weird saying this, but I'm also looking forward to getting it to be 16v16, which is also a strange experience to be saying. Considering, like, I think ultimately, though, like, yes, I think more of this kind of stuff will be good. This is honestly the first time that they've been doing it. So, yes, we can give them some slack on the implementation. They also struggle with the whole, like, tracking of earning things. Like, they disabled the mode for a bit where you just couldn't, like, earn anything for a while.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that, almost every time there's, like, new things to track. It feels like with the Battle Pass, too. Every time there's new Battle Pass, it's like you play three games and it's like, oh, none of that actually counted. And then you go on Twitter and they're like, whoops, we'll fix that in a minute.
Come on, guys. Why? It's like the whole thing with Portal. Oh, yeah, no one's going to get any earnings from this. But why?
Well, I think that's actually a part of it. I think
that's
I saw
true.
on Twitter that
my gosh,
said if you actually load into, because you can join it through Portal, so there's like obviously on the very home screen, the first thing you see is the Liquidators event. If you search for a game through that, that's where it counts. But apparently, if you go into Portal in the mode like the weekly,
they
modes,
bamboozled themselves.
Yeah, and apparently, if you click on it through Portal, it just doesn't track anything. So this is kind of what we were talking about the other week, where it's like Portal is awesome on paper, but it has these little things that like that is another deterrent for me. Next time they add an awesome Portal mode, I'm just going to be thinking, oh, what if none of my stuff tracks and I'm not getting like my tier 1 skins and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's the fact that that's still happening a year into the game. Like,
yeah,
it's a little bit odd.
Like, what in the world? You did it again, DICE. You did it again.
Yeah. They really, at this point especially, I can understand maybe at launch, but at this point, just make Portal. I don't care if people are like setting up bot lobbies and getting tier 1 skins.
The only people it affects is DICE. Nobody else cares.
But even then, like with those skins, it'd be different if there were skins that like you could either buy or you can unlock them. Because then, they're going to lose money because people won't buy them. They'll just get them by doing like
but that's not the case at all.
Yeah, all the tier 1 skins, you can't pay money for them. So I actually do not care if every human on the planet gets a tier 1 skin for free. I just don't care. It doesn't bother me. At launch, I get it. Like, you want people... It was meant to be like this sort of prestigious skin. But it's like... It's kind of the same way that a lot of games, when they kind of come towards the end, they put it like permanent double XP.
Yeah.
Just do that. Like, who cares? I don't care if people are doing essentially like almost cheating and just setting up bot lobbies and getting heaps of kills. I just don't care. Like, go for your life.
Yeah. Like, honestly, that is exactly right. Like, it's one of those things that, like, DICE is so hung up on it. But honestly, nobody... Like, there isn't any... I don't know. It's a tough topic because then you get into, like, the earning of the weapons. But honestly, who cares? Like, that's just a thing to get more people to spend more time in your game. So they can unlock all the weapons. To be honest,
with the weapons anyway, so like the vault weapons, you can unlock them in solo mode anyway. You just
true.
You can, so it's no different. It's like, yeah, I don't know why they're so. It's not just DICE either. It's like a lot of games. They're just so hung up on that stuff. And when it's like really, for example, like Call of Duty has, they always have like their prestige skin that you essentially have to get the highest skin for every weapon in the game to get this final skin that is unlocked for all weapons. And for something like that, I can understand it because those are like, they're meant to be that only essentially the like fully dedicated players get them. But the tier 1 skins are actually not that hard to get. They're all just 1200 kills with whatever. Like, I don't think they're as prestigious as they thought they were going to be. I've got tier 1 skins for specialists that I barely use. Like, they're not that hard to get. So, yeah, I always find that weird when devs are like really protective of that kind of thing. And look, if one person out there is like, oh, that sucks because I put in the hard yards and got it properly and everyone's cheating it, like, who cares?
Yeah.
You've still got it.
As long as you enjoyed it and you have it in the end, who cares?
Yeah. I've never understood that whole, like, issue because you still have the skin, so it just doesn't matter.
Yeah. It's so dumb. What did you play all the maps? Because I know I didn't play all the maps.
I think I have. I can't remember the full list. There's 6 maps, wasn't there?
I believe so.
Maybe
yes.
7. So I think I've played them all because I streamed for like an hour and a half, and then I probably played an hour when the update went live. So I think I know I've played Renewal, Caspian Border. What was it? Breakaway, Discarded. Oh, Arica Harbour was the other one. And then I can't remember maybe I haven't played whatever that last one is because I can't remember it. But yeah, I think I've played most of them. Some of them definitely work better than others, but I think none of them really stood out as like being really good. I think Arica Harbour was good because it's a bit smaller and
it was designed for a smaller amount of people and flow.
Yeah.
So that's definitely
because that part of the map, for example, I'm pretty sure I haven't played obviously Bad Company 2 in like years, but I'm pretty sure that was in Rush way back in the day, that part of the map. So that was designed for like that sort of linear progression type mode. So I think that's why it works a bit better. Also that it just has destruction. Like, it's a lot better because you can blow. There's like these couple of buildings that you can just blow the whole building up essentially. So I think that works pretty well. Caspian Border, which is weird to say because it's my favorite all-time Battlefield map. Yeah. That map sucks in this mode. It's way too big. It's actually...
Interesting.
A1 and C1 are in the same spot as... I can't remember what flags they are called in Conquest, but they're the same spot as those flags, which is made for 32 versus 32. And yet we're playing 8 versus 8. So the map is the same length. It's not as wide because... it doesn't have the other 2 flags.
They just made a corridor.
Yeah. They've essentially just cut the outer 2 flags off and it's still the same length, which is designed for 32 players on each team. So
it takes forever.
Yeah.
Which
kind of sucks because that's like the best map of them all, I think. Yeah. But it just doesn't... I think 16 versus 16 will be a lot better, but the way that it has played for me is that it's almost like each squad goes around running to each flag and you cap that flag and then they're capping the other flag. And then
it's just a
run back to that
ring around the rosy.
Yeah. So I've had a lot of times when like there's actually not gunfights and it's just like essentially
I thought it was a dead lobby when I first joined my first game. I was just like, where is everybody?
Yeah. It's very weird to play. So that's the one that's like the most disappointing to me just because I know that is... I'd argue it's the best map in Battlefield history, to be honest. And it just sucks for this. It's not to do with like I don't even think the linear part of it's an issue. I think it's just way too big because, like I said, it's essentially the whole Conquest map, just not as wide. Yeah. So hopefully 16 versus 16 sort of fixes that because that probably has the most potential of them all. But yeah, I also think Breakaway, like you said, is not good at all.
No. Like that map just It's way too big. There aren't enough like intriguing parts in between it. And because of the storage containers, it makes it very difficult to go from one point to the other, because you also have to watch out for this. Basically, there's this like middle tower that people just stack up on top of, and then they can see almost all of the objectives and be able to like just snipe you. Yeah.
That's probably the worst of the ones that I've played, I think. I think that's even worse than Caspian Border, just because Caspian Border is only bad because it's big, whereas that map just like isn't good for what it's trying to be. It's very weirdly enough, there's almost a bit too much cover on that map, where it's just like you just run from it's kind of the same thing. You just run from point A to point B, but then you turn around, there's someone just shot you in the back, hiding in those shipping containers and stuff. So that's definitely my least favorite, I think.
Yep, same here. It's just weird. Like I think just they keep on saying this. It's just weird. Like it isn't quite. I think it was DJ Carlos in the Discord was like, yeah, it's it doesn't feel like Battlefield. Yeah, he says weapons do seem a bit better, but 8v8 is not Battlefield. I'm not grinding that.
Yeah, that is a good way to describe it. That it's not. Yeah, it does feel very different than Battlefield, and I think like a lot of times Battlefield can pull off these smaller modes, and you still get that Battlefield feeling, but this one just hasn't. And maybe it's because it's too small. Like maybe 8 vs 8 just doesn't work.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it comes down to the maps more than anything. Again, like, who's surprised about that Sage is saying that? Nobody. But it comes down to the map. Like when you have a big map that you just cut a section out of for smaller gameplay, that is not going to work. It just doesn't work. So like when you have that and you don't really switch things around for it, it's not an actual rework. It's literally they just went into Portal and said, okay, let's see what we can add to make this seem kind of like we got our act together and we have like a full-on identity of where we want to go. They just didn't do that. Like it's really strange.
Yeah, that's one of the things with the overall map design in this game that I think we've talked about before, where they weren't designed for anything. They were just maps made, and then they were like, okay, now we've designed it, where can we put the flags and stuff? Previous Battlefield maps, you can tell that they almost like also make sections. I remember I think it was Ballroom Blitz in Battlefield 1, playing Rush, there's actually a part of the map, you start outside of the Conquest map, like you're not even in the same map, in those like trenches, the burned like back part of the map. And it's very clear that they designed that part and they go, this is for like small scale modes like Rush, and it's designed for that. So then that part plays really well, but then it almost feels true that each section of each Conquest map, they've almost been designed for a bunch of different modes rather than just being randomly designed. Yeah. And so I think that's the issue with this game, is that the maps just aren't really designed for anything. They are just like, I don't know how else to explain it. They're just designed and then they put the flags down. Yeah. And that's like the issue. For example,
what are we going to use this for? Just make a map. We'll figure that out later. We'll put boundaries on everything. You don't have to worry about that. And I think too, one of the limitations, I think you brought up a good point there, is like, we don't really think about this, but last gen is 64. Like it was designed for smaller maps. Like it was not, they intentionally, they made, it was, what is it? Like an elephant is an animal designed by Congress or something like that, where you have, you can't really have a viewpoint on it, because you also have to think like, oh crap, we have to bring this over to last gen as well, and it has to be smaller so it can perform well.
Yeah, that's definitely an issue that, to be fair, probably ate up a lot of their time, because they do have to try and, they almost had to design the maps twice in a way. So I think that's where a lot of this stuff stems from, is just there was just too much going on, really. It's not entirely about them being like incompetent or something. It's more just like they just bit off more than they can chew. I think there's like a lot of stuff.
It's almost like they never really committed to what they were making. Like it's just like, okay, well, we have to make it this way, but let's try to make it the best that we can with these limitations in it. without really saying, yeah, this is kind of what we really need to do for it to fit the or for the game that we want to make. And they just kind of went, oh yeah, well, let's throw it together. We'll just make a really big map and then cut it to smaller sections because that'll work, right, guys? And then anytime they've done that in past games, like with that's why Battlefront 2015 has just much better maps than Battlefront 2 does, because Battlefront 2, they made big maps and they cut smaller sections out of it.
Yeah, like when you look at the Heroes vs. Villains maps, they are just parts of the Galactic Assault maps, whereas I feel like in 2015 the Walker Assault maps were actually a bunch of those smaller maps kind of put together, or an expanded version of the smaller maps for like the TDM and stuff like that. So
yeah,
I feel like that's where I feel like these go wrong, because it's the same in previous Battlefield games, that all those maps that have the really good small scale modes, they always tend to play better for conquest and stuff anyway, because the maps are, or like each section of the map is designed around, like it's like focused on trying to get that really good combat, and then when you can almost like slap a bunch of them together and that works, rather than the opposite of that is trying to just make a big map and then cut it down to those. That doesn't really seem to work the same way.
Yeah, it doesn't. So I think there's just like an identity crisis with how they make those maps, and they had to make so many of them, and they had to make them so large. I mean, they didn't have to, but they chose to, because no one was like, you have to make gigantic maps. That was a decision they made, is to have these gigantic maps, but not really. That was one of the marketing things. The biggest maps in Battlefield. All of these are some of the biggest maps we've ever made in Battlefield. Big, big, big. And they're like yeah, but like also you don't really know how to use it. So there's that side of things too. Super, super fascinating. From this experience, what are some of the ways that you think they could, for the next one, make it better? Like, do you think this is how they're all going to have to be to do this, or like, what do you think there?
It's tough. I think, unfortunately, like there is a good chance that if they just keep doing these type of events, like some of them will just probably be not that good. To be fair, I think most limited time events that happen in games, like every now and then there'll be one that everyone just loves.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time they're just not that good. And there's, I guess, probably a reason they are a limited time mode and not a permanent mode. So I think they can. There's still the potential they can do these really well. How they would go about it, I'm not sure. Maybe just a bit more like playtesting, really. Just trying to like you said, there's a bit of like an identity crisis. It's like they don't quite know what they were going for. If they can just try and, like, I guess, plan it out a bit more and just try and know exactly what they want to do. I have no doubt, like, look at the maps they've added.
Yeah.
They clearly know how to do. It's not like like I said, they're not incompetent. I just think they're making a lot of little mistakes that if they just tried to sort of figure out what they want to do and then really go after it, they can do it really well, because we've seen that with the new maps and all that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm not really sure how they go about trying to improve them. I guess maybe part of it, honestly, is just not gassing it up so much.
Yeah.
Like, I think if you just don't
hold your horses,
put out
buddy.
trailers and stuff, like as cool as the trailers are, I'm not opposed to them putting out trailers, and I get like because it's weird, because we've been saying, oh, we need them to do more of that stuff. So it's not that I don't want them to do it. It's more just like, maybe do it in a different, like, approach it differently, because it did seem like this was meant to be like I guess like a little DLC in a way.
Yeah, no, they hyped it up way too much for what it was.
Yeah, and so I think maybe just like tone that down a little bit. Still get us hyped about stuff, but just like, I don't know, let us know more about what it is, rather than, because like I said, going into week, all kind of thought that the skins would be unlockable and all that kind of thing, and then it turns out that they actually aren't. So Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird one, but
Yeah.
I think they just need to figure out what they want to do and stick to it rather than just trying to. It kind of feels like it's quickly thrown together, I guess.
So what you're saying is they should have communicated better? Dude.
Yes, that is absolutely.
That's I don't know how you could even say that. They communicate everything so well.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, I think just doing it more will help them to do it better. I don't think that because they did it poorly this time, they should just stop doing it. I don't think that's the case at all. I just think that it is a good idea that wasn't well executed, but could be even better if they did it again. I think some more of, like you said, some more play testing, some more just getting that back and forth. I don't know, maybe utilizing your creator network people that have played and will make content on your game would be a good idea.
That's too logical.
Whoa. You overstepped your bounds, buddy. So I think some stuff like that, like maybe just having that back and forth and maybe just say, hey, we are going to do like a competition in Portal, and the best mode that we have is going to be tied into our next story idea. I think that's another failing too, is they didn't tie it in with the story idea very well. It wasn't quite there. I still don't know
who these liquidator people are.
Yeah, why are we them? Like why is this entire team that are no-pats liquidators now?
Yeah, it doesn't. Like I said last week, I think they're to do with like that. I forget his name, but there was like that third party.
Yeah.
In the like Exodus film, and yeah, I don't know who these people are, and I kind of like just don't care either. Like, which is weird because leading into the game, the story was so. Even though there's no campaign, the story was really interesting to me.
Yeah.
And it was done pretty well, I thought, but then it just kind of has dropped off a bit since then. Like, they haven't. I guess, look, I'll be honest, the maps have their own little stories that I think have been pretty cool. Like, they kind of explain what's going on and stuff. But with this one, they just didn't really explain it that well. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it wasn't quite the full experience that we wanted it to be. And I don't know, it's so close, but I still think they also struggle with the story they want to tell with this game, because I think there's so much that they could do that they don't necessarily. There's like they want to be Apex, but they don't do what Apex does to make it fit the way that they would have to do it at the same time. So there's a little bit of a disconnect there between like what they want to be and what they are. So I think just to kind of tie this episode to an end, I think they are on the right path. Portal maybe not the way to go about it, because it doesn't seem like, again, a real mode, even though they didn't like put in the time and effort they really needed to make it this big event that they wanted it to be marketed as. But if they fixed the marketing, I think we'd all been a lot more understanding about what this is.
Yeah, I think that's the crux of it right there. Is just the marketing was just odd. So I think a lot of people went into it with a bunch of different ideas on what it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And if you kind of just get the whole community on the same page of what it's going to be, then they're not like confused, really.
Yeah.
That's what we all are. They're not confused when it comes out. They're just kind of like, oh yeah, this is kind of what they said it was going to be.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's the reason that a lot of us are. There is a bit of a feeling of like disappointment, or it's a bit underwhelming, mostly due to the fact that we kind of didn't know what it was going to be, and so because it looked cool, we all probably gassed it up a bit too much. But I wouldn't say that's our fault, because it wasn't. Yeah, that was just the way that they did it.
Yeah, I don't think it's our fault at all, because the way they marketed it and the way that we all saw it, I mean, that's not, you can control that from like an internal perspective. If you want someone to have an emotion or an understanding of what the mode is, you put that into your marketing. It's not something that, like, I mean, there's some things that you can't really control in terms of like what people's perceptions are of what the thing that you do. But like something like this, it's very easy to say, hey, just so we're clear, this is what this mode is. This is what we want you to experience. This is a first try at something new in the Battlefield series, and we want to kind of get an idea of how we can incorporate stuff like this in the future.
Yeah, exactly. That's where they can probably try and improve it moving forward, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I think with that, I would love to hear your thoughts too. You listening to this, what are your thoughts on the limited time only mode? What do you think they can do to make it better, a more cohesive experience, and all of that stuff? Would love to hear that. But thank you all so much for listening to this episode of the Battlefield Show. We greatly appreciate all of your support, and would love to hear that feedback on kind of what you're expecting there. Also, to support the show completely free, check us out on all the places that you can leave a review, like iTunes or Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can leave us a rating there, and follow or subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts completely free. We're on the YouTube channel for this with gameplay in the background. But yeah, thank you all so much for listening to this episode. Thanks Ethan Clark for the beautiful thumbnail, and all of you for listening. As always, we'll see you on the battlefield.